When 16-year-old climate activist Maya Rodriguez confronted oil CEO Marcus Sterling at a shareholders meeting, he laughed and called her just another angry kid. 2 years later, her meticulously researched climate report bankrupted his $50 billion company and changed environmental law forever. This is the story of how one teenager's dedication to truth brought down one of the most powerful corporations in the world. Welcome to Soul-Stirring Stories. Before we dive into this incredible tale of youth activism, corporate accountability, and the power of truth to challenge the most powerful institutions on Earth, tell me in the comments what climate action you've taken in your own life. And if you believe stories like this can inspire the next generation of environmental leaders, hit that subscribe button and help us spread the message that age is no barrier to changing the world. Maya Rodriguez first learned about climate change when she was 13 years old. It wasn't in a classroom or from a documentary. It was when Hurricane Maria devastated her grandmother's hometown in Puerto Rico in 2017. While politicians debated whether climate change was real, Maya watched her abuela cry over photos of the home where she'd grown up, now underwater and destroyed. "Mija," her grandmother told her, holding a picture of the small house by the ocean. "The water just kept rising. 70 years I lived there, and the ocean never came that far inland. Never." That night, Maya began researching. Not casual Googling, but deep, methodical investigation into climate science, sea level rise, and the connection between greenhouse gas emissions and extreme weather events. What she discovered made her angry, then determined, then absolutely committed to doing something about it. By age 15, Maya had read hundreds of peer-reviewed climate studies, mastered the basics of atmospheric chemistry, and understood the relationship between corporate fossil fuel emissions and global temperature rise better than most adults. But more importantly, she had begun to uncover something that would change everything: the deliberate misinformation campaigns funded by oil companies to confuse the public about climate science. Her target became clear when she discovered that Meridian Oil Corporation, one of the world's largest petroleum companies, had been funding climate denial research for decades, while their own internal scientists had accurately predicted climate change impacts as early as the 1980s. The company's CEO, Marcus Sterling, had become the face of corporate climate denial, regularly appearing on news shows to question the scientific consensus, while his company spent millions on lobbying against environmental regulations. Maya spent months building a comprehensive database of Meridian's internal documents, many obtained through Freedom of Information requests and leaked by company whistleblowers. Her bedroom became a research center, with whiteboards covered in timelines, connections between funding sources and denial campaigns, and direct quotes from internal company emails that contradicted their public statements. The breakthrough came when Maya obtained internal Meridian documents showing that the company's own climate scientists had warned executives in 1985 that their operations would contribute to catastrophic climate change within decades. The same executives who received these warnings had then authorized a $200 million campaign to fund think tanks and researchers who would publicly dispute climate science. Armed with this evidence, Maya decided to take her case directly to the people who could hold Meridian accountable: the shareholders. Meridian Oil's annual shareholders meeting in Houston was typically a carefully orchestrated affair where executives presented rosy projections while avoiding difficult questions about environmental impact. The 2019 meeting was scheduled to be no different until Maya Rodriguez walked into the room.
Using Ymir statistics ran part of this string in another time of page.
At 16, Maya looked even younger than her age. Standing less than 5 feet tall, wearing a simple blue dress her mother had bought for the occasion, she seemed utterly out of place among the suited executives and wealthy investors who filled the conference room of Houston's luxury Four Seasons hotel. Maya had purchased a single share of Meridian stock, costing her $73 of babysitting money, specifically to gain access to the shareholders meeting. Under corporate law, any shareholder has the right to ask questions during the public comment period. When the moderator called for questions, Maya's hand shot up immediately. "Yes, the young lady in the third row," the moderator said, clearly surprised to see someone so young in the room. Maya stood up, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 16 years old, and I'm here to ask Mr. Sterling about Meridian's internal climate research from the 1980s. The room fell silent. Marcus Sterling, an imposing man in his early 60s with silver hair and the confidence that comes from decades of unchallenged corporate power, leaned forward to his microphone. "Well, that's quite a specific question from someone so young," Sterling said with a patronizing smile that drew chuckles from some audience members.
"Are you here on a school project?"
"No, sir," Maya replied, pulling out a thick folder. "I'm here because your company's own scientists predicted in 1985 that Meridian's operations would contribute to catastrophic climate change. But instead of changing course, you spent $200 million funding climate denial campaigns. I have copies of the internal documents that prove this." Sterling's smile faltered slightly. "Young lady, I think you may be confused about Dr. Patricia Chen, your former head of atmospheric research, wrote in an internal memo dated March 15, 1985, and I quote, 'Continued extraction and burning of fossil fuels at current rates will lead to global temperature increases of 2 to 4 degrees Celsius by 2050, resulting in catastrophic sea level rise, extreme weather events, and massive economic disruption.' Do you remember receiving that report, Mr. Sterling?" The room was now completely silent. Sterling's face had turned red, and several shareholders were leaning forward in their seats. "I don't know where you got that information," Sterling said, his voice harder now. "But these meetings are for serious business discussions, not for—" He paused, clearly choosing his words carefully. "Angry kids with environmental conspiracy theories." The dismissive phrase would come back to haunt him. Maya didn't flinch. "Mr. Sterling, if Dr. Chen's research was a conspiracy theory, why did Meridian immediately begin funding the Climate Truth Institute, which spent the next 30 years publishing papers that contradicted your own scientists' findings? Why did you authorize payments totaling $47 million to organizations that spread climate misinformation, while your internal research confirmed that climate change was real and dangerous?" Sterling stood up abruptly. "This meeting is for shareholders to discuss business matters, not for children to make accusations based on," he gestured dismissively, "whatever internet research they've been doing." "Sir, I'm a shareholder. I own stock in this company, which gives me the legal right to ask these questions, and my research comes from your own internal documents, obtained through legal freedom of information requests." The moderator quickly moved to the next question, but Maya had said enough. Unknown to her, several people in the room had been recording the exchange on their phones. By that evening, video of the 16-year-old climate activist confronting the oil CEO had been viewed millions of times across social media platforms. But Maya wasn't interested in viral fame. She was interested in justice. Over the next 18 months, Maya continued building her case against Meridian Oil. She collaborated with environmental lawyers, climate scientists, and investigative journalists, providing them with the documents and research she had compiled. Her work became the foundation for multiple legal challenges against the company. The turning point came when Maya's research helped prosecutors in New York establish a pattern of deliberate deception that met the legal standard for fraud. The case argued that Meridian had knowingly misled investors and the public about climate risks, constituting both securities fraud and consumer deception.
Maya testified before Congress about corporate climate denial. Her research cited in legal briefs and her documentation of internal company communications became crucial evidence in court proceedings. At 17, she had become one of the most important witnesses in the largest environmental fraud case in U.S. history.
The legal proceedings revealed the full scope of Meridian's deception. Internal emails showed executives joking about funding useful idiots in the climate denial movement. Company presentations outlined strategies for manufacturing doubt about climate science to delay environmental regulations. Most damaging of all were recordings of board meetings where Sterling himself had acknowledged that climate change was real, while simultaneously authorizing funding for organizations that disputed it. In March 2021, a federal court found Meridian Oil Corporation guilty of securities fraud, consumer deception, and environmental negligence. The company was ordered to pay $89 billion in damages, the largest environmental penalty in history. The financial impact was so severe that Meridian declared bankruptcy within 6 months. But the legal victory was only part of Maya's impact. Her case had established crucial precedents that other environmental activists and prosecutors could use against fossil fuel companies. Courts had ruled that companies could be held legally responsible for funding climate misinformation campaigns, even if they didn't directly publish false research themselves. Maya's work also inspired legislative changes. Congress passed the Corporate Climate Accountability Act, requiring companies to disclose their internal climate research and any funding they provided to climate-related advocacy organizations. Several states enacted laws making climate misinformation a form of consumer fraud. The international impact was equally significant. Maya was invited to speak at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, where her testimony about corporate accountability influenced global discussions about holding fossil fuel companies responsible for climate damages. Countries around the world began implementing similar disclosure requirements and accountability measures. Sterling himself faced personal consequences. In addition to the company's bankruptcy, he was charged with individual criminal fraud for knowingly misleading shareholders about climate risks. At his sentencing hearing, he was required to listen as communities affected by climate change, including Maya's grandmother, described how corporate climate denial had delayed action that could have protected their homes and families. Maya, now 19 and studying environmental law at Stanford University, attended Sterling's sentencing. When asked by reporters how she felt watching the man who had dismissed her as just another angry kid face criminal charges, she said simply, "I feel like justice is possible when people..." The ripple effects of Maya's activism continued to expand. Her model of youth-led, research-based corporate accountability inspired similar efforts worldwide. Young activists in Australia, Europe, and South America began using her methods to challenge fossil fuel companies in their own countries. Environmental law schools started teaching courses on Rodriguez-style corporate accountability research, analyzing how individual activists could effectively challenge powerful corporations using careful documentation and legal strategy. Maya established the Climate Truth Foundation, which trains young activists in research methods and connects them with legal resources. The foundation has supported dozens of cases against fossil fuel companies, helping establish a new model of environmental activism that combines grassroots organizing with rigorous legal strategy. Perhaps most importantly, Maya's victory proved that the fossil fuel industry's power was not absolute. For decades, oil companies had seemed untouchable, able to influence policy and public opinion through massive spending and political connections. Maya showed that careful research, persistent advocacy, and strategic legal action could hold even the most powerful corporations accountable. Her work also highlighted the unique role that young people could play in climate activism. Unburdened by career concerns or industry relationships, youth activists like Maya could ask uncomfortable questions and pursue research that adults might avoid for professional reasons. Today, Maya continues her climate advocacy while finishing her law degree. She has testified before Congress multiple times, consulted with prosecutors on environmental fraud cases, and advised policymakers on corporate accountability legislation. At 21, she has already helped shape environmental law and policy in ways that will protect communities for generations. The empty lot in Houston, where Meridian Oil's headquarters once stood, has been converted into a renewable energy research center. A small plaque near the entrance reads, "Dedicated to the pursuit of truth in science and accountability in corporate behavior." Maya's grandmother lived to see the completion of the research center. At the dedication ceremony, she told reporters, "My granddaughter always said the truth would win. I just didn't know it would happen so fast." Maya smiled when she heard this quote. "Fast?" she said. "It took 4 years of work, thousands of hours of research, and the courage to stand up to one of the most powerful companies in the world. The only thing that's fast about climate action is how quickly we need to do more of it." When asked what advice she would give to other young people who want to make a difference on climate change, Maya's response was characteristically direct. "Do your homework. Build your case. Never let anyone tell you that you're too young to demand the truth. And remember, every document you uncover, every question you ask, every moment you refuse to be silenced is a step toward justice." The teenager who was once dismissed as just another angry kid had proven that anger, when channeled into action, could move mountains. And in Maya Rodriguez's case, it had moved something even more difficult. A legal system that had long protected corporate interests at the expense of environmental truth. Maya Rodriguez's story reminds us that the fight for environmental justice isn't just about protests and petitions. It's about research, evidence, and the courage to confront power with truth. Her victory against Meridian Oil proves that even the most powerful corporations can be held accountable when brave individuals are willing to do the painstaking work of uncovering facts and demanding justice. If this story inspired you to think about what role you can play in fighting climate change, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Your share might reach the next young activist who needs to know that their voice matters and their research can change the world. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of individuals who refused to accept the status quo and fought for truth, justice, and a better future for all of us. Thank you for watching, and remember, in the fight against climate change, every voice matters, every fact counts, and every person who refuses to be silenced brings us closer to the world we need to build together.